Good morning. Welcome, everybody, to this end of March
End of March.
2025. Talk of the Town. We're sorry we're a couple minutes late this morning. We learned a few things about our streaming solution. So you'll see in the stream we're up to our backup stream now. So always have a plan B. That's the important thing
Yeah,
here.
and sometimes C and D.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the joys of going live. What
Well,
could go wrong? It
it,
might.
And,
So
and yeah,
yeah,
Murphy's Law. But
yeah,
the truth is, every live stream, there's always something,
yeah.
and we've talked to other people have the similar experience, and that's kind of part of the excitement of it. Is like you never know, and you look behind the scenes and see all the duct tape and stuff holding
Ex-
things together.
Except we're 13 minutes late, which drives me nuts.
Yeah, no, no,
So
no. We got to keep the schedule here for sure. So sorry for that.
no,
Sorry for the delay.
it's all good.
But thanks everybody for joining us. And we're just going to jump right into things. I will say we got quite a few 19-ish or so questions. So thank you for everybody that submitted those. We are going to be getting to those. Before we do that, we want to hit on a couple of topics of things that we've been sort of talking about and things that have been on our mind recently from the city's perspective.
Right.
So you want to start? Last month we were in Austin.
Last month we were in Austin, coming to you live from a office building that was right next door to the Capitol. Well, we were hoping we could have been out on the patio going live with the Capitol over our shoulder. That would have been just a beautiful.
It is a fantastic shot.
View.
Yeah.
It was in the trial lawyers building, and they wouldn't allow cameras on the patio.
Yeah.
So
or live production. I guess I suppose you can take pictures.
Yeah, you can take pictures out there. They didn't want any live production out there,
and it was kind of loud out there. So
Yeah.
I mean, it worked out well.
I'm not going to question the lawyers.
No.
So
Yeah.
they allowed us in there. They had a great space. So
we appreciate that hospitality to Texas Trial Lawyers Association.
Yeah, yeah. So last month we were in Austin, Pearland Day in Austin. It's something that our chamber puts on and has been putting that on now for about 13 or 14 years, somewhere in that ballpark. And every time you go to Austin, you're advocating for your community. You're advocating for what you need in your community from the state level and those types of things. And of course, we're in the legislative session. And anytime we're in the middle of a legislative session, we have to really keep a watchful eye out on bills that are being filed that may negatively affect a city or the county or the area that we're in. They may positively affect us. And so we want to know what those are so we can advocate on behalf of our community one way or the other. And so I think there's over 8,600 bills filed in this session. Last year it was about 8,100. So, they've increased even from last session. And at the end of the day, maybe 1,500, 13 to 1,500 will get through committee and onto the House and
which
passed.
is still a lot.
Which is still a lot.
Staggering.
But it's a far less number than obviously the 8,600.
Yeah.
And so we have to keep a watchful eye for that. And so this morning, I would actually like to draw some attention to our residents here. I went on Facebook last week and actually with a public engagement post to share one of the bills, and it's SB 15, and we're going to talk a little bit about Senate Bill 15, SB 15.
And so if you remember, I'm forgetting the show now that had the songs with the what's a bill.
Yeah, how to pass a bill.
Yeah. So you have a
Schoolhouse Rock.
Schoolhouse Rock. There it is. Thank you.
Golly. Yeah.
I need more coffee. You have a Senate Bill SB and then
House
a
Bill
HB. And they're corresponding typically.
Correct.
They'll have nuances between the two of them.
Right.
But sorry.
Yeah, in this particular case, SB 15, it's a priority bill from the governor, lieutenant governor on the Senate side. The House version at HB 3919. But regardless of that, SB 15 has already passed through the Senate. Here's what SB 15 does, and this reason why I put it out is to draw attention to what sometimes happens at the state level with the best of intentions.
Sure.
At the state level with great intentions in order to do something, but what consequences and what negative effects it could potentially have at the local level.
Unintended consequences.
The unintended consequences. And so in the city of Pearland, we are a zone city. We have zoning, and we have a comprehensive plan that kind of shows what our future land use is going to be and those types of things. And we go through that very carefully. In fact, we just approved an update to the comprehensive plan here several months back. And we go through that process about every 5 years.
With input from
the
wide variety of
community.
stakeholders, community.
And in fact, in
corporate
this
businesses.
one, we had a community stakeholder group. We had listening sessions throughout the community. We had online surveys and those types of things to get feedback. And so again, it's not necessarily the city plan or the council's plan. Ultimately, we adopt it, but lots of input from the community. So SB 15, at the end of the day, would allow for tiny lots by right, meaning they can just do it.
Tiny lot would be
okay. Explain it. Okay. And so on the tiny lot thing, it's lots 4,000 square foot down to 1,400 square foot lot, not house,
not the house,
the lot. And so it comes up with its own parameters on setbacks, front, side yard, rear yard, those types of things, regardless of what our rules are. So
that
it would
supersedes because it's state law.
It would be state law that would supersede our rules, which means any residential property already zoned residential in town that is unplatted, so raw land, unplatted, and 5 acres or more. So we did an analysis, and we've got over 1,600 acres that meet that parameter.
What if it's already platted? If it went through a replat,
it
would have to go through.
It would not be eligible for the by right.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Right.
And so, and again, that's just looking at the law. So, so what it would allow is the minimum size lot, all the way, for 1,400 square feet, minimum is 20 foot wide by 70 deep. So
it's like
that.
as wide as
right. So 20 foot wide, 70 foot deep, 5 foot side yard setbacks would allow for literally a 10-foot wide house. Now, so I put that out there as this is the possibility. This is what could potentially happen, and those types of things. And when you do the numbers, the bill actually allows for 31 plus lots to the acre. You can't get 31 because when you put a street in, you take up area. The bill does say you have to follow stormwater runoff rules and regulations. So when you take detention into consideration, you're not going to get 30.
Sure.
But the bill states 31 and a half. So at the end of the day, we've done some just high-level math to see what impact that would have. And across all of those residentially zoned properties, you could come up with over 28,000 tiny lots under that parameter. Do we think we would get 28,000? Probably not.
But we have to plan for.
But we have to plan for the worst case. So when we do all of our planning for water and sewer.
And just for perspective, right now in Pearland, there are 54,000 households.
Somewhere in there.
Something like that. And that's, I guess it's not including all the apartments. That's residential addresses. So
the apartment address may be in that, which has X units on top of it.
But so that would, increase by 50%.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and so we have to then plan water and sewer facilities and those types of things based on potential build out, based on our density. And so it goes back to the comprehensive plan. We've planned all of our water and sewer facilities based on our comprehensive plan.
Right.
And so it's real important that we got involved in this. And so then I'm getting really wonky here, and I don't mean to be, but when
you kind of got to get into
we got to get in the weeds a little bit to understand the language at the legislature. So then they'll come out with a bill, and it may apply to the whole state, or they may bracket it. So they'll have brackets saying this only pertains to cities of X size and counties or cities that are wholly or partially in counties of X size. So the original SB 15 had 90,000 population on the city.
In or out of
in the bracket. So the bracket, it pertained to cities 90,000 or more,
which were in
that, and wholly or partially in a county of 300,000, which obviously we
Which
are.
Brazoria County is.
Brazoria County, well, all three
Oh, yeah,
counties.
right.
So we're always going to be in a bracket of on the county side
Mhm.
because Harris County, we're a
So,
part of Harris
right,
County.
right.
We're wholly or partially in Harris
Right,
County,
yep.
and Harris County's got 4.5 million residents, almost 5 million residents. So we're always going to be in that side of things. So we worked with our representatives. We got word to our senator. This is going to have negative effects on our community. And on the floor of the Senate last week, in fact, a week ago today, on Wednesday, they got an amendment change to get that bracket to 150 in population,
Pull us out
which
of
would
it.
pull us out of it temporarily,
Mhm.
right? I mean, we're best guess around 132,000 people in the city,
Yeah.
and so at what point become 150, it would pertain to us, right? So now it's over in the House. We're working on it with our reps, both Representative Berry and Representative Basut on the western end of our community. Neither one of them want to
The
see.
Senate bill's already through.
Senate bill's already been approved by the Senate
Yeah.
at 150, and we're trying to get the House bill upwards of 250. Okay, because then when the two reconcile together, we're hoping to get that thing in the 200,000 range.
Sure.
And chances are, the ultimate build out of our city, we would never hit that
Yeah.
number. Okay, and so it's real important that we get involved in these. It also means that we may have to go testify on a bill and bring subject matter experts, people at the local to come up and say, here's how this is going to affect us. We don't want to see this. And I will say, 200 plus comments later on my Facebook post on my Facebook mayor's page,
Mhm.
there's no one that wants this bill.
Sure.
I mean, it is not a bill that people want to see in our community. The biggest thing is it takes away the local control of what we want within our community. So if you had a 10-acre tract next door to you that was, let's say you live, up off of, Harkey or Carr or O'Day or something. There's a lot of tracts that this pertains to up in that area of our city. So let's say you live in one of those on a 5-acre tract, you have your house, and next door is a 15-acre tract,
Mhm.
and it's zoned SR15. SR15 is suburban residential, 15,000 square foot lots or bigger.
Mhm.
That's
The
how.
big lots, yeah.
That's what that
Yeah,
means.
yeah, small lots.
15,000. So it's a third of an acre.
Yeah, third of an acre, yeah.
And so by right,
Build a neighborhood there.
they can come in and build a neighborhood, go
Yep.
below 4,000 square foot on the lots, and you next door, zero say in it. Zero say. And so
Well, and council, no say in.
and council has no say in it, staff has no say in it. By right, they can go do it.
So, I don't want to put you in a position where you're uncomfortable speculating, but
Who, me?
uh, the do you have an opinion or a thought on the motivation around this? 'Cause,
Yeah.
we talk about these bills, and we know they don't come from a
Yeah.
malicious place. But
Yeah.
what's
So
the-
and as I started off, I said I think bills get filed with the best of intentions
Right.
that also have negative or unintended consequences that might not have been contemplated.
Yeah.
So this bill was filed and run through as a priority because in our legislature this year they're trying to address housing affordability.
I see. Well, and probably housing quantity too. I'm sure we're
Well,
running low
so
on
some of it is
south.
we're low in housing. We got people moving, so they want to get more housing out there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they want to get affordability. And here's what's hard, because we do have an affordability issue. We do. The nation has it. It's not just here locally. This is a nationwide problem. And so the thought is, let's take away every rule and regulation. Let's remove the barriers to affordability, and then developers go and do, market go and do. The problem is that doesn't address the root cause of why we have affordability issues.
Mhm.
So in Pearland, for example, our land prices are higher. Why? Because we're running lower on it, right? So that cost of land, people desirable, school district is one of the tops in the area, and those types of things. So people want to locate here.
We need to address that differently than
Correct.
other types of affordability issues.
Correct. So you have land costs that this bill does not. The reason we have an affordability issue, and again, my private side, I'm in land development, residential development, and so I know what this cost is, and I know what's driving the factors. So, number one, we started seeing back in Trump's first term,
Mhm.
years ago, we started seeing labor costs spike.
Mhm.
Why? Well, he closed the border,
Mhm.
right, wrong, or different, whatever you think about that. He closed the border, and it caused that labor to not.
Right, right.
Okay, uh, and so good thing on the immigration side, but it had an effect, probably an unintended consequence, but it did.
Sure.
Then Harvey, how many homes were flooded in the greater Houston area,
Yeah. And then
and
you need materials for all
and
those.
and not only materials, but you've got all the labor went to
Oh, yeah, yeah.
went to remodels. Who was paying the bill? Insurance. Okay, labor costs spiked when they got finished with that, and they come back over to new construction. We only work for this
Sure,
cost, right?
sure.
New normal,
Yeah.
right? So that labor cost was up, and you can go back and look, labor cost, spiked about that time. Um, Material cost, everything else, because you got all these
Which those
remodels
kinda
on house.
regulate some.
Yeah, and then you had COVID hit, which what happened in COVID?
Yeah.
Okay, supply chain. Remember
Yep.
lumber prices going
Oh,
just
yeah.
bonkers
Yeah.
and all of that. So what happened? All that cost went up, and so the cost to actually deliver a home, development costs, concrete, asphalt, pipes, all those kind of things,
Mm,
that cost went up, and it hasn't come back down.
mhm.
So this bill, all it does is says, well, instead of a 2,000 square foot house on this lot for this price, 300,000 or 350, let's just cut it in half, make it 1,000 square foot home on this size lot, and we'll still charge, 150 grand for it.
Right.
So the price per square foot is still 175,
Sure.
180,
Yeah, you're
and
not bringing that
so
down at
so
all.
it's really addressing the affordability issues that are causing it. Now, again, I think it's in the right spot from the legislature. What they're
Yeah.
trying, the problem I have with it is they're now telling locals, and I actually saw this in some traffic last week, watching and looking about this bill. You have people in Austin who are saying, "Yes, we know more and we know better than your
Yeah.
local representatives," and I have a problem with that.
Sure.
And so,
Yeah, Texans love being told what to do generally.
yeah, generally speaking. So that's SB 15. Again, we're monitoring what's happening in the House. We're trying to get that bracket a little higher, so we're out of it
And
for a long time.
that's a really great example of, part of the effort that's made for communities. It's not just us, other communities have this too, but, one of the things that we do specifically for Pearland as a community, is, work with our state legislators,
Yeah.
and pay attention to these things and make trips to Austin, to make sure that we're getting the community that you, uh, intended when you moved here and all those different things.
So so
And it's
there's
a
a so there is a bill.
Yeah,
There's another bill similar to it, except it's multifamily related. It's Senate Bill 840. Okay, so very
and
similar.
that's already passed.
It's already passed the Senate. It passed with the same 150 on the House on the population for the city side. It started at 60,000, so we were in
Mm,
it. It passed the Senate at 150. We're trying to get that pushed in the House even higher. But here's what it would have done. So right now, currently in the city, we don't have any vacant property zoned multifamily. So somebody wants to come in and do a multifamily
it
project,
has to.
they have to come through our city council, they have to come through the staff. We have very strict parameters on what we want to see.
Which if you watch any of those projects come through or any of those public meetings, it is a rigorous
It
process.
is, and I know there's people out there that'll say, yeah, but we got apartments going everywhere, this and that, and we can address that in a minute. But at the end of the day, it would allow by right apartments in any commercial zone that we have. So commercial,
Industrial.
general business. I don't think it applies to industrial,
Oh, okay.
but anything, restaurant, retail, general business, all of those categories, which we have tons of
Yeah,
acreage
yeah.
that fits, and it would allow by right multifamily and mixed use by right.
Mhm.
We can't say no. We can't say this is what it has to be. It even has code written into the law of what it would be. And so again, it takes away the locals to have a right to say
Mm-hmm.
in what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we've had several questions about multifamily, no more multifamily, and those types of things. Multifamily is a component of housing stock, and not all multifamily is bad. I can tell you, police calls and records. We don't have apartment, issues where that's where all of our crime is happening
Sure.
and those types of things. So the data speaks differently. We don't allow Section 8 housing in our community. That is something that has to come through council to be approved.
Mm-hmm.
We don't allow that. We have approved some tax credit things, which is not Section 8. Section 8 is a federal subsidy.
Mm-hmm.
The tax credit deal it's an IRS tax credit type of thing. You go through the state, you get this tax credit. So if you're an Exxon, you can invest in this and get that taken off your income taxes and those types of things. And the only time we would allow that is if it's an older property,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to stay an older property. We want investment to make sure that there's an
Sure.
upkeep in it.
Sure.
And so somebody comes in and buys it and gets a tax credit deal, and they'll put, $20,000 a unit into it to keep them upgraded and those
Mhm.
types of things. We'll look at it, but they're all on a case by case basis.
Right.
It's not a blanket. You automatically get it.
But that's closest thing to a subsidy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not a rent subsidy.
Right.
It's the other way around. So market rents, we have approved some apartments, but they're all market rent based. We do look at the makeup and the mix. We want them smaller, not larger.
Right.
If you get into 3 and 4 bedroom apartments, those generally have way more kids. It's more strain on the school.
Mhm.
But if you keep them to efficiency, 1 bedroom and a limited number of 2 bedrooms, then you end up with very few kids in our
Density.
in our school, in our schools, and those types of things. And so, and what ends up happening a lot of times on the 2 bedroom is you have 2 professionals renting
Sure.
it because the ultimate rent's like $2,500.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we're not talking
More than
about
most
yeah, we're not talking
mortgages.
about cheap. Like the Ivy Lofts just opened, and they've got apartments that reach $3,000. And so, and up and they're leasing up and as well. So, but we want to say in our community on how, where, and what an apartment building would come in.
Yeah.
I will say this publicly: we've put down more than we've accepted.
Mhm.
Staff heads off way more than we ever see.
Yeah.
So, but if it was to pass and we were in the bracket, Vance and his team over in community development tell me we would have 10 applications the next day.
Sure. Yeah.
And there's nothing.
Because there's an appetite for it, and
Right.
we have the space.
Well,
for it.
we're a good market and a hot market for it, and so it's something that we have to be diligent about.
Well, and at the same time, I think you kind of already touched on this a little bit, but we're at this sort of spot with the build out of our community where density is part of the conversation. It's part of what we need long term to have a well balanced, sustainable community. It's just a matter of how you go about that. And
Yeah,
to your
and
point, the apartments that you have approved versus not,
Right.
like at the town center,
Right.
right? That complex, how big is that property? 43 acres, 37 acres?
on the back,
Yeah, on the backside.
no, it's 12.
12 acres.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was, where I got the 37 from.
Yeah.
The 12-acre property that, has been sitting part of the town center for a while. There was a lot of conversation around it.
Yeah.
And healthy
And-
conversation. I
and
think.
I've always been a market-based approach to in having zoning, and zoning there's a fine line. There's absolute property rights on one side,
Sure.
and then there's lockdown. You got to do everything this way on this side.
Yeah.
And zoning is a fine line between the two, and it allows for public debate. It allows for public discourse. It allows for these types of things, but it also allows for our locals to have that say and control
Right.
in what's going to happen. I'm not against a tiny lot subdivision. What I'm against is the state saying thou shalt
Sure.
mandate this
Sure.
and anywhere in town, regardless of what your plans are. And so instead, I would rather see a developer come in and say, "Hey, we have a great idea. We think we can achieve some affordability and housing costs,
Yep.
and let's have this conversation."
Sure.
and then we walk through that, and I would rather see that than, we didn't reject, but, they withdrew their application over on McCard Road for a
Mm.
townhome deal.
There's
And
97 townhomes on.
and at the end of the day, that was small stuff.
Right.
But
Very
council
small.
didn't have an appetite for product, for the actual product.
Yep.
And so now that's already zoned general commercial.
Right.
SB 840, we were in it. They could come in and do apartments,
No problem. Yeah.
and nobody could still work.
Well, and it kind of sort of goes back to years ago now, 2019, I think. Council in the strategic retreat set the tagline "Be Community of Choice,"
Right.
and choice being, not only a place where people choose to live, choose to be, but ideally where the community is making the choice. Right? It is saying these are the things we want, and to your point, a state law on that level.
Well,
goes
and
across
and
that.
and to that point, in order to have zoning in the state of Texas, any city, in order to have zoning, it's not a vote of council.
Mhm.
Council just can't enact zoning. By law, it takes a vote of the people. So when you're attacking the zoning laws, when you're attacking the zoning structure of the city from the state legislature, you're actually going against the voters of that community. And not just me or not just council or not staff, but the very community,
Sure.
that said we want to have a well-planned zone city.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and we can have those debates about different uses and those types of things, and
Yeah.
that's what those are for, and that's what public hearings are for.
Right.
And these go completely around. They're even state law. All of a sudden, you're mandating.
Right.
Even if we were to say we're going to put that code into our unified development code. Let's say we picked up the state law and said we're going to make that apply to our unified development code anywhere. To amend our unified development code takes notices, public hearings,
Yep.
and 2 votes of council.
Yep.
So the transparency of trying to, do that, state makes their own rules.
Right.
So, but again, we need to have that dialogue about affordability. We need to have an open dialogue about what's right for our community. And just because somebody lives in a smaller home or a less expensive home doesn't make somebody a bad person.
Right.
And this notion that, well, we just want to stop all building. So I've done that math. Okay. I've done that math. In order to do that, the public has to own the land.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. And in order to do that, we would have to go to the voters for a bond election of about $500 million to buy up all the land.
That's it. That's a steal.
Okay. And that's a best guess. I mean, we have some higher value property and we have lower value property.
Sure.
When you average all that out, I've run those numbers, and I mean, it's a staggering number that the public would have to go and say, okay, we're going to sign on to a tax increase to buy up all the land.
But then we'd have to maintain all that land.
And because if we deny permits, if we deny somebody the ability to develop their land, even under the rules that they're zoned, we get sued.
Sure.
We get sued for a regulatory takings.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and guess what? Yeah, we pay them we pay them that, but they still own the land.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So we just give them money to turn around and develop their property with. And so that's not a good way to do it. Green space, open space. I mean, we've had conversations around what, where, and how.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some things in the work that we can't publicly disclose yet.
Sure.
On some public land, potential public land that we can buy, and keep treed up and keep natural and those types of things. But at the end of the day, as we look at these questions, throughout here, we've got street repair, we got sidewalk repair, we got all this other stuff, or do we put that money into just buying raw land?
Right.
And so it comes back to choices and what our priorities are and how we address that budget. So again, enough about the state law stuff. I mean, those are 2 bills that would have great impact on us.
Yeah.
It would cause
not great in a positive way, but it'd have a significant impact.
It would have a huge effect on our water and sewer system, and because we've already planned for the ultimate build out of our city with those facilities, and this would cause more, and so more capital improvements there around those.
So stay informed on that. Follow the bills all over. Texas Municipal League has a lot of good resources. It's a lot of information, but I mean, a lot of it you can keep track of just by watching city council meetings.
And like I said, it's a little wonky, but it's important that we do.
You want to answer some questions?
Yeah. Why don't we go ahead and put the pavement condition index?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Pop that up there real quick. So real quick, and I'm just going to take this in a bucket.
Okay.
Okay. So a
You
lot
got a
of
pothole.
questions around, and we have this every month about streets and whether there's problems within a neighborhood. Most of the ones that are listed here, most of these neighborhoods are 40 plus years old, in some cases 50 plus years old. We know, we get assessments. Are you out, assessing? I mean, put the full.
Oh yeah. Go to
condition index. Yeah, take that completely off, and
there you go.
So
this is the
every
full
street
pavement
in
condition index.
street in town has been driven. Every street in town has been assigned, a status of where it sits, in the condition of the street. And so we know and understand. And from this map that you see right here, that's how we create our work plan.
And this is publicly available. I'll show you one of the questions. I'm just going to point it out real quick here. It was when are streets and sidewalks being addressed, assessment in green tea.
Right.
And so this area over here, this is just streets in green tea, and you can see the orange.
I think they're orange.
And if you click on each one of these, it'll show you the pavement condition index. And you'll notice here that there's an original PCI. Part of the reason that this is built this way is so that we can, as we rehab streets, we can update the PCI.
Right.
So let me see if I can find an example of one that's been updated.
I go to Willowcrest.
Willowcrest. Oh yeah. Let's see here.
Scroll over.
Yeah. No.
Go up.
Right. Well, we can do this section of this section of
go on.
veterans too.
Keep going. Where back out.
Silver Lake.
Back out. Back out. There we go. It's right here. Willowcrest.
Right.
Is up here. Yeah.
Okay. So this
See it
might
all.
have the
It's all
original
green.
PCI. Okay, so this has the original PCI, but because this would have been done around the same time, pavement condition index, I think.
Right.
I'll have to check in and see. But this is designed to allow that information to be updated as those future rehab.
So like here's back down here. Here's Shady Crest.
Yep.
You can see in here it's all in the orange. We have it's over here behind City Hall as an example. So we see those. We see what the pavement index is. We have a drainage project that was approved in the 2023 bond program.
Yep.
And as a part of that drainage project, when we get through, we're going to come through and redo the streets.
And I'm just going to show people real quick. So
Right.
This is publicly available information. So if you'll go back to the website, thank you. So if you're on the homepage of our website, also comes SpringFest. You go to Engineering and Public Works, and that's where you find all of our infrastructure is in Public Works. And so in our street services, there's right on their homepage the interactive dashboard, or a link to the interactive dashboard.
There it is.
And when you open that up, it brings up it's called ArcGIS, it's Geographic Information System. But it is a fully interactive dashboard where you can see every street and its condition in the city.
Right.
And then you can filter by a number of different things, but where the street division is going to be.
So we had a question about veterans. We have it every month,
So
and it's the same answer this month as it has been the last several months. Magnolia, veterans from Magnolia to Bailey is scheduled to be repaid by interlocal with Brazoria County.
Yep.
And so the last, I think we're intended, typically we get that June, July timeframe with Brazoria County. And so that section of veterans that you can see here is scheduled for that work
basically
this summer.
Spike.
Yeah, this summer. So a lot of people, why do you keep patching? Why do you keep patching? Because we do know we need to address the rough spots.
Yep.
We get it. We're not trying to go out there and slap a lot of money down, knowing a few months from now it's all going to be milled and redone.
And just like the drainage projects in Shady Crest, we won't go blow up the streets to fix the drainage.
No, to fix the streets, because we're going
Or
to tear
fix
those
street, right,
streets
right,
up,
yeah, that way,
because then we'll turn right around and tear it up.
Yeah.
But if you look at the 5-year CIP, if you just put over the next 5 years, I think it's the last one.
The proposed locations pending budget adoption. Well, the 3 and 5 year. So
You can
5
see
year
here,
CIP
it's
in
just
partnership.
shy of 40 miles of roadway
I
that
think it might
will be
actually
that'll be
zoom out.
rehabbed, over the next 3 to 5
Okay.
years.
That's,
And so, while it's not necessarily happening
Yeah.
in the time frame that people want, there is a method to doing all this.
right.
We don't want to come in and redo the street and then go back and tear it up again when we do the drainage project. So we're coordinating the drainage project with the street behind it.
Yep.
For example, West Lee, you can see down here, that's doing some design work. We did some drainage work in here a little over a year ago, and we're actually doing some geotechnical work out there right now. We're looking to bid this portion out later this year,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and have that done. So we have this scheduled, and again, I wish it was happening faster, but there's also a certain amount of people resources
Right.
in
Right.
order to do this. There's certainly financial resources, and again, we've tied a lot of road work rehab to our drainage projects, because we're going to come in with equipment. Here we're going to be doing drainage. We're going to be tearing up the road anyway.
Line them all up,
And then when that's done, we'll be coming back and doing the road. So there's actually a method to it. I wish we didn't have a single pothole.
Yep. Right. Right.
Okay.
Yep.
I also wish we didn't have droughts 2 summers in a row that eroded subbase. I don't.
Nothing to do about that.
I mean, that's an act of God that this side of heaven, we can only speculate as to why we had droughts.
Right. Right.
Okay, and so we have to work with the effects of it. I'll also state, so I'm going to get a little political.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this isn't Republican or Democrat. This is local politics. In 2014, we did our first ever condition pavement index,
Mm-hmm.
and at that point in time, it said we needed to be investing $4 to $4.5 million a year into maintenance of our streets
Mm-hmm.
to keep our index.
Mm-hmm.
We were investing $1 million.
Mm-hmm. Which is not 4.5.
And
not
council
real good
and
amount.
council at that time didn't increase it.
Right.
So is it any wonder we've fallen behind?
Mm.
So now it's $6 million a year to get it.
Mm.
Okay, and so council has made the decision not to go to $6 million, but to incrementally increase what we're doing each year to raise the bar.
Sure.
Hopefully, with some of these capital improvement projects and everything else, our pavement index will actually increase, and we'll actually have the staff and the resources to maintain better.
Well, and we
And
have
so-
a newish team that's
Yeah.
dedicated to street repairs
Mhm.
specifically. We were actually out with them last week. We're working on footage now from actually watching them, how they go through and fill potholes, and it's really impressive. But the hot patch truck
Yeah.
and the team, it takes 5 people to do that job. Excuse me, and so they have 5 people on the team. So if they have any sicknesses or vacation days or anything like that, it throws everything off, and they have to pull from somebody else.
Yeah, we were running late the other night, but I'm going to ask. It may be necessary that we have so that's 10 people, right? 5 on this crew, 5 on this crew.
Mm-hmm.
We probably ought to have 11
Yeah.
hired. So you have a
So you have a
floater.
floater.
You have a floater
Yeah.
that can be there to make sure that and the reason why you have that is you got a driver, you got somebody that typically had 2 flaggers.
Right.
I mean, this stuff's out in the middle of traffic, right?
Yep.
So they're having to work those types of things.
It's really
but-
impressive to watch, though, and I mean they're filling potholes just as fast as they possibly can,
Yeah.
and kind of like with the street condition index. We'll get into this a little more with questions, but they're going on severity
Right.
of potholes. So if you see a pothole, certainly report it. We do as well.
Right.
But they're inspecting those things as well to
Right.
make sure that they know. When you report them, including pictures is extremely helpful
Yeah.
to help them do a quick assessment and determine what order of priority it's in.
Yeah, and I know people make jokes about it and those types of things. It's serious stuff. If we were to, I don't know that we would have the staff to go and do all of it at one time. You couldn't attack it that way. But we do have a systematic approach to working those types of things. The number of closed work orders on pothole repair and those types of things is incredible. Now that's on asphalt. Concrete streets, a little
Right.
bit different. Their
Right.
life is longer, but the
Repair
rehab is way
Yeah,
more
yeah, yeah, yeah,
expensive.
yeah.
Okay, it's way more expensive. So what you're seeing is, we have some questions about like South Down and South Glen, Green Tea,
Mhm.
and so we're talking about subdivisions in Green Tea's case is 50 plus years old.
Concrete streets.
Concrete streets. We've got South Down, South Glen, 40 plus years old. On some of that infrastructure. So they are needing repair. They are
Mhm.
needing some TLC, right? And so, like we saw with Willowcrest, you're not going to come in and patch that. You're not going to. Now we do some patching to get it to a time where we can replace a panel or something of that nature. So we know the conditions that are out there. We have crew that are out there daily.
Mhm.
Again, we look at the dashboard and we can see, the work, all that's reported and uploaded to the dashboard, so we
Yeah.
know what the
It's available to
situations
the
are.
public.
Same thing with gaps in sidewalks. So we have a sidewalk dashboard as well. And 2013, bond program,
2023.
2023. I said 13, didn't I? 2023. I went way back in
Yeah.
time. And so we've actually been, accelerating and getting some really good work done in that. But it's a
Yeah.
systematic approach. I mean,
I
we
think we
can't
we had a $15 million
15.3 million for sidewalk
specifically
repair and
for
gaps
repair and
and
gap.
gaps.
Yeah,
And
repair gap replacement.
yeah, so that was in an effort to get us caught up. We were falling behind.
Yep.
And that's in an effort to get us caught up. Our goal is to get caught up in about a 3 or 4-year period and then have the dollars in our annual budget to maintain and move on.
Yep.
That's the hope.
Yep.
That's fingers crossed. That's what we're hoping to accomplish. So we do know that there are some gaps. We do know that, but if we have a capital improvement program, for example, to rehab a neighborhood, we're probably not going to spend that bond money
Mhm.
filling in a gap.
Right.
We're
Because
going to
it's gonna
wait
be
and do a
taken care of.
different bond program and do it then.
Or there's development. I
Right.
mean, a lot of times
Right.
for commercial development, they're adding
Right.
sidewalks, things
Right.
like that.
But in order to rehab Green Tea, for example, it's in our capital improvement program. I'm gonna get this number wrong, but if Willowcrest was 12 or $13 million for new streets, water, sewer, drainage, Green Tea is gonna be double that
Yeah.
plus. So that's not cash money that we just have sitting. That's a bonding opportunity, and it's probably gonna be a vote of the people.
Sure.
So again, we can go back to the legislature.
Yep.
Those bond elections now, there's a bill out there that those bond elections is a simple majority. It'll have to be a super majority at
Ooh.
66%.
Yeah, that's
So if you're a neighborhood and the rest of the city goes,
yeah, we don't want that.
we're not going to pay for your
Right.
street.
And
How
then
do we deal with that? Right?
that runs across with community
Yeah.
generally.
So I'm gonna hit these real quick.
Yes.
On the
So the first one is the city responsible for vehicle damage due to the potholes? How does one file a claim for damages?
So we do have a risk management team, and they can go through risk management. That does ultimately go through our insurance carrier, Texas Municipal League (TML), and it would be up to them to determine whether or not it's something that's claimable.
Mhm.
But certainly can direct you to our risk management folks and see what we're doing. I drive and I have to avoid potholes too.
Sure.
And so, just making sure that we're aware of what we're seeing.
And going back to the streets team, they're looking for the worst potholes. I mean, they try to prioritize them as best they can, and if you see one, certainly report it to make sure that we can get it taken care of.
And if um, we have a rain event, I mean, we got rain coming this weekend,
Yeah, Thursday and Friday.
into next week. it will exacerbate the problem.
Sure.
We'll come out of
Yeah.
that and we will have more issues. We always do. We know that. They work as fast as they can. There are certain areas that they go back and hit pretty hard.
Yep.
Um, and so, patching, and they are looking at certain areas where we see a bigger failure. They'll do a larger patch to
Mhm.
get it to when we actually redo the road.
Yep.
Lots of conversations around that.
Yeah.
So South Down, Southland, like I said, we know and understand.
Yeah.
It's a matter of putting it in a work plan and ultimately probably bond programs
Yeah, so
and
we had
that
a
type of
comment
thing.
about a question about the streets in
Yeah,
South Glen.
yeah,
And so that'll be a bond project
yeah.
at some point.
51% rule.
Oh yeah, so I'll read the question here. So when are we going to be able to vote on the 51% rule? We need fine here instead of fine dining probably instead of having to drive to Houston, Sugar Land, or Webster.
So
So
51% rule, I don't believe is still the law of the land in Texas.
so the
It's
51% rule used to be
used to be 51% of your sales had to come from food,
okay.
food only.
Yep.
So the other 49% could be alcohol.
Right.
And so when COVID hit, they changed it to 60-40. 60% could be alcohol, not
So
49,
significant switch, yeah,
and 40% could be food. And
or
then
merchandise.
coming out of COVID, they took that governor's order, made it law in
Mhm,
the 21 session,
mhm.
and added any
I see.
so in merchandise and everything else
Yep.
at 50%. But what we've heard from most restaurants is they're good with that. Now,
Sure.
if they're talking about fine dining here, um, I, it's not the 51% rule that's keeping fine dining out.
Yeah.
It's not the 51% rule. Now, if you're looking for a bar
Bars
only,
and things.
those types of things, now it's 60-40. So in order to get this, in order to change this to go to like where you can have a
Get a vote on
standalone to get a vote to where you want a standalone, say, wine bar or
Mhm.
something of that nature, it takes a petition. It, our city secretary's office and our legal team have PowerPoint presentations on this whole thing. There has to be a petition in a certain way and a certain number of people. I don't want to give those numbers because I can't remember,
Yeah.
but it's certain number of voters on petitions based on X vote,
Right.
and they have to turn those in, and those signatures have to be valid, and all those kind of things. That sets it up for a vote of the people. The last attempt was in
2020.
2022,
22. Yeah.
okay, and they failed to get the signatures.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so that's not and
Quantity of signatures. They got signatures.
they
They
got
just didn't get enough of them.
no, they got a ton of signatures. It was valid
Oh, valid
signatures
signatures. Right. Yeah, that's
it so the petition itself was not validated
yeah.
to go to the voters. That's the second or third time, and it's always failed at the petition level.
Yeah.
So again, it's going to take somebody going out there and doing the petition. Council can't just put it forward to the vote of the
Sure.
people. It has to go through this process in order to do that. So
Next one. Since the construction of the new traffic circle in Pearland Parkway, power has not been restored to the Lakes of Highland Glen monuments and portions of the street lights along the road.
yeah, so I'm going to take this one a little bit offline. I'm going to
Okay.
contact Jibby directly. I know him, and because this is the first time I've heard that there's a power issue at the monuments. I've always heard that we got the irrigation going. We worked with them on some building and some other stuff over there. I'm going to take this offline with our staff and reach out to him,
Yep.
see if we can't help resolve and move that forward.
So thank you for bringing that
Yeah.
to our attention.
Yeah.
To the mayor's point, this is educational for us as well. There may be a center point component in there. Not really sure about that, but
Well, I'm sure there is, and what I don't know if the HOA has reached out to Centerpoint and those types of things, but we can interface with Centerpoint involved, and fortunately for me, Centerpoint will return my call. So I'm so
got them on speed dial.
yeah, just about.
Uh,
So we've answered the
Yeah,
green
yeah,
keys the same
65
way.
PNC.
It's a matter of we know and understand the gaps. We know and understand the
Mhm.
situations that are out there. If there's something specific and you think it's dangerous, especially on the roadway, again, that's
Submitted through.
submitted through the
Yep.
Connect Pearland app,
Um,
and we can get going. As far as the bridge is concerned, and ends, again, that is a gap. The text dot project didn't contemplate, putting the sidewalk all the way in and everything else. That's something that we have to come back and do. We are aware of that. As far as timing, I would have to ask and get back to them on the timing for that.
Okay.
Understand the comment, no more apartments. Don't need to expound any more on apartments there. Next to the bus barn.
So yeah, this question,
so
can we see about the repatching the bump in the
Yeah.
shoulder in front of the bus barn?
and that's Plum. Plum don't necessarily have to put up the dashboard. Plum is in our call for project. Not call for project. It's in our work plan. We've got about $1 million or $1.2 million contract coming to council. I want to say in the next month or so, and I believe Plum is in that one.
Okay.
So this particular one, so we may continue to see a little bit of patching
Mm-hmm.
until we get that one done.
Got it. This next one, I really like this question. What's Mayor Cole's opinion on Torchies?
So I love Torchies. Unfortunately, I like to sleep at night, and Torchies is a little too spicy for me. I know I'm a wuss when it comes to that. But seriously,
So what's your favorite taco?
it's
Let me put you on the spot. Is it the
one of the
presidential ones?
yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Maybe.
I literally have heartburn so bad that I can't sleep. So I don't
So
go
it's a
a
lunchtime food.
Yeah, I don't go a lot, unless I can have a margarita with it, and usually that's not a daytime activity that we need to do. Kind of address veterans between Magnolia and Bailey, and we will continue to pop that in. That is going to be part of our Brazoria County. We're hoping that work gets done this summer. And again, those are always, subject to weather, subject to those types of things. So people need to be aware you pay a road and bridge fee to the county.
Right.
And as a city resident, we have some of these roadways that we inherited from the county.
Mhm.
This is a roadway that we inherited from the county when it was annexed eons ago.
Yep.
Okay. And so,
Highway 59, original
yeah,
plan.
so we have a standing agreement with the county that we supply material,
Mhm.
they supply the labor and the machinery to do these roadways.
Yep.
It's a very good work.
And we
We
appreciate that partnership.
absolutely
That road and bridge fee, it doesn't have to be put back
Right.
into Pearland specifically. It can go anywhere in the
Right.
county. And so we're thankful to continue that partnership.
Right.
And it subsidizes the cost of road repair for us to do the materials that they're costing and their labor to do those.
Yeah.
things as well.
So we have a work plan. That cooperative it's 6 years old, 35 years old, and we schedule a certain number of roads each year. We look at it. We go to our pavement condition index. And we work through those. Last year we saw Wall real bad section Walnut got
Yep.
done, and then that was an example of one. So veterans between Magnolia and Bailey is scheduled in that. I'm hoping that that's in front of council to approve the interlocal here in the next month or so, getting ready for the summer. What's important is the county, then most of their roads are asphalt, and then they've got miles and miles and miles of asphalt. So they bid their asphalt for that volume.
Yep.
And so when we buy the material, we're paying through their cooperative program on the asphalt purchase.
Yep.
So we're getting it about as cheap as you can get it, on the
Sure.
market going through the bid process. So it's been a great, and all the commissioners we've had over the years, it's just been a great partnership in doing that.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
This one says, are there any plans to build more public pickleball courts?
Yeah. So actually, we are in kind of early stages of design on the next phase of Independence Park. I know pickleball is something that we've been looking at there. As an addition to that, we want more stakeholder groups and those types of things to be a part of that. So that would be one that we are looking at. We know, we hear it. We're trying to program where best to put in, and I think Independence would be our best bet.
I do know too, and I'd have to go back and look at the commenter, but I believe, I mean, there are pickleball courts set up at the recreation center in the afternoon.
Yeah.
It does require a membership,
believe so.
which is subsidized for Pearland residents specifically. But then they have indoor pickleball. I think they have 4 or 6 courts there, if I remember correctly.
Something like that.
And so that's another option as well. But I would encourage people to get involved in the Independence Park Phase 2 redesign process, because that's another one, a voter approved bond package approved by just over 50%. So roughly half people said they wanted it, half people didn't. So we want the
Public
community
engagement on it.
to
Right.
now that we have the secured funding for it, tell us what you want in that space.
Yeah, it's real important when we approved that, or we approved the vote on it, and voted all that. It was real important that we listened to the 48% that said no to the bond program.
Yep.
A little bit different than if you have a 65-35 or something like that. When it's that tight, you really want to dive in and know and understand it. And I think most of it was no, because people didn't understand the phasing of Independence Park.
Right.
Independence Park, the full master plan has always been out there.
Right.
And it was never going to be done in one deal, because it would be $40 million, $50 million. So
in the first phase, you don't see a lot.
You don't see a lot of what was done,
because
because it's all underground. Some drainage and some things of that nature. The hill, people say, well, all we got was a hill. Well,
$4 million for dirt. I heard
and there's way more.
Yep.
Behind the scenes, which lays the groundwork now for Phase 2.
Sure.
That's kind of a centerpiece, and we can do more. I think it's $16 million in the bond program. We moved the $17 million Phase 2 of the soccer complex at Hickory Slough to the EDC. So they're going to take that on, so it doesn't affect the property tax side of things. They can do that through the sales tax and their half-cent sales tax. So that's a good move. But with that, Independence Park is in early stages. I know there's been conversations about additional pickleball courts there as well.
Cool. So. One last question we've gotten so far. Do you still have the vision to revitalize Grand Boulevard or Park Avenue into something like Old Town Spring with shops and eateries?
So I guess condition a little bit about this question. So we have a revitalization plan that's been working its way through with the consultants and some of the stakeholder groups. A week ago, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago,
we actually got a look at that.
Yep. Some sort of honed in.
The early stages.
Catalyst groups.
Yeah, the early stages of that. We expect that back in front of council summertime.
June, July.
June, July time frame for adoption and all those kind of things. But yes, so necessarily, will it be like an Old Town Spring thing? Possibly. There's going to be some areas that we set apart that we're going to have to work with private development in how we incentivize and make some of those things happen. Grand itself, one of the plans that's coming out of it, which I think is pretty cool, is turning Grand, keeping it a street, keeping it where we can use it daily, the way it is, but we can turn it into a festival space. Okay, because it's,
and the renderings of that are impressive,
and it's very good, and so it's going to take some public money over time, and that's one of the things that we don't have to go and do all of what's in this plan at one time. Right. We could program it over X years where we do things.
And this plan was really designed to provide vision.
Correct.
I mean, there is a balancing act of a plan for the sake of having a plan. Right. You want something that you can act against, but it needs to be big enough that it builds momentum over time.
Right. And so it has that capability. Most people really like the vision of what we're looking at on Grand, both sides of Broadway.
Yep.
And making that work.
And there is a public comment period right now online through Olson, the consultant that helped facilitate all of these things. So on the homepage of the city website, you can go to an interactive website that's the Old Town Site Revitalization Plan specifically, and provide input and feedback on the sort of, they're calling them the big ideas that they had.
Yeah.
And there are 5 little hot spots within the Old Town Site that people have provided input and comments on, and then they sort of shaped it all into an idea, and it's impressive. It's really
And
neat
to
see.
the questioner's point, part of the Old Town Revitalization Plan goals is to create places for people to gather,
Yep.
places for people to have some nightlife, eateries,
Hmm.
different options like that.
Yeah. Some
Walkab-
intentionality
some
to
walkability.
sure.
So some of the, as we call them, catalyst areas or big ideas areas are some areas that there are a few areas where we need complete tear down and rebuild.
Right.
We also have an area behind McDonald's and back over there along the tracks. There's 14 acres of vacant property.
Mm.
And so how do we utilize that
Yep.
in a proper way to do something as a catalyst? Yes, people talk about the train, but we're a quiet zone.
Mhm.
So you have the noise of the train itself, but you don't have the whistle.
Right.
I say that we have a conductor or three that likes to come through town and still do it. And if you ever hear that, we can actually contact the railroad. And if you know exactly what time they're doing it
Uh-huh.
and you know which way they're traveling, the
Mhm.
railroad knows exactly which conductor did it. And there is a reprimand that gets handed down.
Oh,
I do know that.
interesting. Good
I
to
do know that. So that we did the infrastructure to have the to have the quiet zone for a reason.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we need to do that. So there's a couple of areas through there, and then over time you'll see additional projects. The thing about the Old Town Site revitalization uh, um, is casting that vision, working both public-private partnerships to then make it happen.
Right.
It's not 460 acres of greenfield where we can just go and do.
Sure.
It's 460 acres of existing, and we have to work through the existing. We're not looking to go and tear down a bunch of houses
Right.
or do anything like that. In fact, the housing stock, according to the consultants, is very good.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean, I mean, is there a problem or three? Yeah, there always is.
Sure.
But for the most part, the housing stock in the Old Town Site's really good.
Well, and that you mentioned the public-private partnership. I mean, I don't think anybody would want for the city to be responsible for all of that development
Right.
because of the burden it would put on
Right.
the taxpayers,
Right.
right? And I would run cross with that free market approach.
Right.
Let the things that are going to do well and make sense come in here, but with thoughtfulness to them.
Yeah.
Couple other, I just want to point out, Catherine D said hi. I just want to say hi to her real quick on there. And then Brittany asked, she said, I wanted to ask my question and Bob Eli's question regarding Lakes of Highland Glen consolidated to Jibby John's power question. Should we reach out to Jibby then for updates?
Yeah. So I've got Jibby's contact, and we'll contact him offline. I would I want to.
Okay.
I want to find out what's going on with CenterPoint on
Yeah.
that, and then have some intentionality on making sure that this is a very specific request.
Yeah, this
So,
is about irrigation and power.
Right.
So yeah, Brittany, we'll follow up on that. Look for something
Right.
through Jibby from the mayor on that. And then we'll try to get you some more information there.
Yeah.
I think that's all the questions.
So back on Old Town Site real quick.
Yeah. Sorry.
So at the end of April, we have two events. The Chamber on a Friday night. Let me look at the date real quick. Friday night, the 25th. The Chamber will be hosting the grand dinner.
Yes.
We'll be hosting
Grand Arts and Eats.
the grand dinner. And they're actually going to, block it off. There's going to be huge tent erected out there across from the park, Zelensky's Park. And we'll have a sit-down dinner with 250 people, long tables, so community, family style, type of an event. And then on Saturday, the 26th, we have the Grand Arts and Eats. That is a partnership between the Parks Department and our Visit Pearland folks, where we will be highlighting arts, small eateries, food trucks, and the like. So more information coming about that, but it's going to be an opportunity to show what a festival can potentially be like there on Grand, and hopefully build from there.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Brittany actually had a follow-up comment. We'll check on this. So her question was about the landscaping, and it was a reimbursement from the city. Bob's question was about sewer within Lakes of Highland Glen. So let's see. So Bob was saying his yard was damaged by piping replacement by the city. So I think Brittany, back to your comment, we're going to have to follow up and get some more information for you.
Yeah.
So we'll be reaching out directly to you on that, and to everybody in this comment group.
Okay. Yeah, because those are very specific on what was going on there. So let's dive into that, and we'll get staff taking a look at it and engaged on those.
Yeah. So we'll have to take that one offline, Brittany, but we'll get with you on that.
Yeah, absolutely. But thank you for reaching out, and thank you for asking the question, and hopefully we can be quick in getting an answer back.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that pretty much covers it for the month of March.
Yeah.
Thanks for sitting down with us. Thanks everybody for joining us online. And we will see you again next month. Probably, I believe our next one's in the evening.
Should be in the evening.
At the end of April.
That'd be April 30th.
Yeah.
Last day of April.
Exciting.
Very good.
All right. Y'all have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.